I'm a little late to this news, but whatever, I still want to talk about it. Honkai Star Rail is a PC and mobile story gacha game created by Hoyoverse and is one of the biggest games globally. With a revenue of $1 billion in just 9 months of release, to then winning Game of the Year for the World Science Fiction Game Awards. Star Rail has some of the most in-depth storyline and character backstories that can keep players interested in the game, and with their turn-based strategy combat mechanic makes the combination of great storytelling and strategic thinking a very compelling and fun game. But glazing aside, one of the biggest issues of this game is the insane amount of power creeping there is with every new character release. Power creeping is when game companies introduce newer and more powerful abilities, characters, and or game mechanics into the game that make those previous aspects completely irrelevant and obsolete. The concepts of both power creeping and gacha don't really mix well with any low spenders or free-to-play players. Gacha games are games where you can spend real-life money to obtain quote-unquote pulls or spins to randomly get the more powerful items or characters for yourself. But now you don't have to spend real money to get pulls or spins. Most of the time you just have to put in a lot of time and effort to be able to get pieces of a pull. Yes, pieces, I know, right? But in this game you can obtain stellar jades, and when you get 160 of them you can spend them all to pull for one random item or character. And with every one pull, you only have a 0.6% chance of getting a 5-star, which is the highest rarity of any character or weapon in the game. And you can probably already see why games like this really don't make the community too happy. With having to put in hours of your time to obtain only a handful of stellar jades from main quests, side quests, endgame content, you could only get a few pulls to either save or use on a character or weapon that you want. There are two different types of banners: the limited time event banner with characters and light cones, which is weapons, that are only out for 3 weeks, and the standard banner, consisting of 5-star characters and light cones that are the basic 5 stars that don't expire and are available at all times. When you pull on a banner, you gain 1 pity. Pity is basically how many pulls you've done that the game keeps track of, and when you hit 90 pity or pulled 90 times, you get a guaranteed 5-star. You can get lucky enough to hit soft pity, which is around 75 to 80 pity, or be super unlucky and go all the way to 90 before getting a 5-star called hard pity. 90 pity sounds like a big number, you're probably asking, and you're right. Normally with the in-game content that Hoyoverse releases, it doesn't provide enough stellar jades in that update alone to get players to 90 pity without spending any money. So what this does is that it forces others to save their pulls for a character they really want. And even though that's not the problem here, the other problem besides power creeping is that when you do pull and hit either soft or hard pity, you're still not rewarded with the character that you pulled and saved for. That's right, sports fans, when you're guaranteed a 5-star or even luckily pulled a 5-star, there's still a 50% chance for you to not get the character that you've wanted and instead would get a 5-star from the standard banner. It sounds frustrating, right? Well, imagine when the game first comes out and the first few limited 5-star characters and light cones come out with it. They obviously become the strongest characters in the game, and you spend making the characters stronger by putting in tons of hours into getting the perfect relics to increase those character stats, only to then have your character just be completely useless a few updates later when there's new characters involved. You may be wondering that that's how it goes with any game that's susceptible to power creep, right? And yeah, though you're right, the amount of time it takes to make that first 5-star super strong doesn't have enough time to really shine in fighting enemies and in endgame content to make it worth your while. The department in Hoyoverse that runs Honkai Star Rail basically speeds up the inevitability of power creep by 100-fold. This means that if you're a fan of the game and want to make sure that you're powerful enough to keep up with the new enemies and new endgame content every update, you're more likely to spend real money to get the newer and more powerful characters to tackle the newer and stronger enemies that you'll have to inevitably face farther down their storyline. Now that that's out of the way, we can actually talk about how they finally decided to fix this power creep issue. Not necessarily fix, but definitely look into to try and make it better. In a recent dev note talking about the newer updates coming to the game, they also mentioned how they intend to quote-unquote fix power creeping in a sense. They say, and I quote, "We're excited to bring everyone bigger and better journey experiences. To name some examples, we will be adding richer combat gameplay and challenge goals to the game. In addition, issues closer to Trailblazers' hearts, including difficulty deploying older characters on the battlefield and the strengthening of these older characters, are already on the schedule. Stay tuned for future content updates, Trailblazers, After hearing that, is like hearing that the angels start orchestrating a heavenly melody into my ears, granting me a new way of living. It's honestly such a breath of fresh air to have such a large company listen to their community and finally bring these older characters back into meta. Now, I don't expect the older characters to come back and dominate the battlefields again, but what I am expecting is that the older characters are strong enough to where you're able to beat these enemies and clear the levels if the time and effort was put into them. Normally that wouldn't be possible with the current state of the game, but hearing that the devs are working on bringing the older characters back into a playable state makes me have hope for this game. I personally have a few handful of the older limited 5-star characters, and recently with the introduction of the new planet Amphorius, I actually wasn't able to clear any of the endgame content that was released with the planet. I used to be able to clear them with some level of difficulty in past updates, but every update has gotten harder and harder for me to clear. And not gonna lie, this forced me to pull for the new characters that I actually did spend real money on. And hopefully, Hoyoverse continues to go in this direction and give the older characters some shine while not making the newer characters entirely useless, you know? I'd love to just finally use some of these older limited 5-stars that I have and actually be able to do something with them. But, you know, with all that out of the way, that's kind of all I wanted to rant and talk about. If you liked what you saw, you should definitely subscribe and like the video. Make sure to join the Discord and follow me on Twitch to see another side of me that you don't actually see on here as often. And those links are in the description. Either way, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all soon.
Be swept away by the wind.
Step up, let's see ya!
Rhythm get messed up. Dreams do come true. Some value, I suppose.
Nice sight, my friend. Indulge yourselves! It ain't over.
Castles with ancient secret techniques.